Guys, I just completed my first ever vibe coding project, and it's something I'm really proud of in the sense that it took me about a week to go from zero knowledge to building this particular fully functional hub. Now I say hub instead of a website because yes, the front end is a website, but it basically works like a web app. Like everything, there's a separate application that manages everything on the website, right? That is impressive, and all of this took me about a week, right? And I built all of this without having to write one line of code or opening Figma or Framer to design anything. All I did was just, prompting and taking screenshots and downloading images, prompting a particular AI agent to build it all. To put it simply, if you can think of an idea, right? If you can visualize an idea, or maybe just explain it briefly to me, I can build it. That is the skill I've just unlocked. Any software idea, I can build it. But the reason I'm making this video is not to, talk about the site. It's just to talk about learning. First things first, I think it just really takes about 20 hours to master the basics of any skill. Now, I say basics before because basically for me, it took me around the same time to stumble through my initial ignorance, having no knowledge, no context, and then also acquiring the necessary skills. Like, there's usually like meta skills. There's usually some skills that you need to know before you can then build like the main skill you're trying to learn, right? This leads me to my second thing. Like I'm currently reading a book by Robert Greene called 33 Strategies of War. And there was a section I was reading and then Robert Greene said, what you know must translate into action and action must translate into knowledge. And I was like, wait a minute. What do you mean by what I know is not knowledge? Like you're basically telling me when I say I know something, if I've not applied what I know, I can't call it knowledge. While thinking about it, like I opened my notepad and then I drew like a form of flow chart. So you're telling me like the basic way to visualize this, the basic way to see this is what I know, right? Is the first step. You know something. The ideal thing to do with what you know is to apply it, to do something with that newly found idea, newly found concept, right? And then when you do something with it, like you get feedback, you get like neurons and the neurons in your brains, they create like new neural pathways, and from there you learn, right? And once you learn, now you know better than you initially did. And now because you know better, you can do better. Because you can do things much better, you learn even faster and much better. And once you know and learn faster and better, you can even know much better than you did. And all of a sudden we have like this, this cycle, this upward spiral that basically takes you up in skill. So you do, and from doing you learn, and then once you learn, you know much better, and then once you know better, you do better, and then it keeps taking you up and up and up. But I think the major mover, like in this upward spiral that we're talking about, is doing, right? Applying your newly found ideas, executing the plans you make, basically take ideas, implement them and get feedback and refine, right? And I think that is how we learn. For me, right, when Ola taught us vibe coding, the session was basically like maybe like a 4 or 5 hour session, and all we just doing was you had your own laptop, and then most of what I was doing that day was just soaking it in, like taking notes. Out of the 3 students there, I was the only person without any dev experience, like any software development experience, and I knew how to like take meticulous notes, like detailed notes. And if you saw my notes, you would feel, oh, this guy has all the experience in the world. Like he definitely knows this for sure. But now I think Ravikant puts it best when he said, life is lived in the arena. Because until you take what you have, your product, your knowledge, your ideas into the arena, you will never get feedback, right? You will live in this illusion of competence. So for me, like during the training, like the way Ola taught it, like it made it look so easy. And to be fair, this is like a framework you probably learned, through pain, through multiple failings, through multiple like failing and trying and improving. And now you eventually figured out something that worked, right? And it made it look easy. And it makes sense for it to look easy because since he's done it for hours, right? He's done it for hundreds and almost thousands of hours. Everything is now autonomous, right? So it was just, flowing through it. But for someone like me who had no prior dev experience, there were a lot of basic skills that I did not have. For example, I didn't know how to use a code IDE like VS Code or anti-gravity. I didn't know how to prompt a command terminal, like, or PowerShell, this kind of stuff. I had no experience with it. I didn't even know how to install basic things like libraries and dependencies. I didn't even know. Oh, I was supposed, if you're trying to install something, you type maybe npm install dev or npm install this. I didn't know. I had no knowledge. And because during the training, Aladdin didn't cover that. It just went straight to the business of the day. All of those basic skills, I didn't have it. So if I just stayed with my notes and I was like, oh, I will implement this in the future because I feel like I already knew it, I'll be living in an illusion of competence. Right? And you see everything I listed, using a code ID, the one that stressed me out the most, which is like one of the most basic thing, was connecting the API of the AI agent I was using to anti-gravity. It took me 4 hours to put it in like a way Nigerian would say it. This thing showed me shege. Now, shege is basically saying like something like didn't work for long. Like I was trying it for a long time and it didn't work. It showed me pepper, it showed me shege. And I think that's why I said the first 20 hours is really important because that is how you learn to like sit with the mental pain of the initial ignorance, the mental pain, the boredom, the tedium, all of that information. So you just sit with it, right? So things like connecting GitHub to connecting my IDE to GitHub for push and pull requests, auto do, like making sure my site auto deploys to GitHub. Like when I push my code base to GitHub, you auto deploys on Vercel. It took me hours. I could keep listing like a lot of things that would seem basic, but because of my skill level, they showed me shaggy. They didn't come easy to me. Like it took a lot of effort to figure those things out, to like sit with it for hours and overcome my ignorance, my temporary ignorance, my flaws, and my lack of skill. And I know I'm saying all of this now, and it might seem like I'm this superhuman guy that never gives up, always going. But the truth be told, every time I ran into those issues, like I considered quitting. I was actively questioning whether any of this was worth it. Like, bro, why are you doing this? You're a mechanical engineering major. Why are you doing this? Why does any of this matter? Like, but every time I tried that, like I remember like Jim Rohn would say something like, every time if you find a kid that is learning to walk, no matter how many times the kid falls, every time they fall, they get up. And then the way to say this is like kids, they have like persistence that runs deep like the ocean. Like the ocean is insanely deep. So imagine having a level of persistence that like no matter what comes your way, you don't even consider giving up. You just fall and then you get up. You fall and you get up. So that, like every time I ran into those issues, like that was what would come back in my head. Persistence runs deep like the ocean. Persistence runs deep like the ocean. And I kept going, thankfully. And ladies and gentlemen, I now have a functional application. It's not a static website. The design is insanely good, right? Everything works. So the site has like my mechanical engineering portfolio, my podcast sections, everything, the playing button, everything works. Transcript, everything works, right? And I think basically I'm saying all of this to say the most effective form of learning for us as individuals, the most effective form of learning is practice. It's not more learning. It's not more YouTube videos. It's not more planning. It's not more purchases. It's not like the most effective form of learning anything, content creation, mechanical engineering, anything is practice. So you take, again, just to reiterate, what you know must translate into action. And it's that action that translates into knowledge, right? That is how you learn. You learn by doing, right? You learn by doing. And where do you do things? In the arena. Because life, like Naval said, life is lived in the arena. In the meantime, you can check out my site and let me know what you think.